Hello YouTube, Flightsimguy here. Today I figured I'd do a quick flight in my Beech Duke. Today I'm going from South Bend International, which I guess is in Indiana, and I'm going over to Chicago O'Hare. I'm going to fly across the lake. And in the process of making this flight, I'm going to talk about multiplayer options. Flight simulator or flight simulation, compared to most games, it's a rather solitary sport. And for the most part, we just do it by ourselves. But the truth of the fact is, simming is a lot more fun when you share the experience with other folks. So I'm going to go ahead, and what we're going to do is we're going to break up the flight. I'm going to go ahead and do some flying, and then I'm going to take a break and talk about multiplayer options, do some more flying, and back and forth until we get done. Alright, so what we're doing here is we're starting up the Duke. I'm surprised this thing starts as easy as it does. I can't imagine a real plane starting up this easily. One of my favorite add-ons, definitely the Beech Duke. My favorite GA add-on, and I use it for all my local flying around activities. Alright, so let me go ahead and give you a high-level summary of what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about FSX Steam Edition multiplayer. That's the lowest common denominator as far as multiplayer options go. Then we're going to talk about the online ATC networks, VATSIM, Pilot Edge, AVIO, and whatnot. And we'll also talk about online flying clubs. And we're also going to talk about the latest and greatest in multiplayer, in simulation multiplayer, which is JoinFS. So with that, let me go ahead and get this thing going. Gonna get me a weather report, do my taxi, and take off. And then after that, we'll go ahead and start talking about
Kilo Sierra Bravo
multiplayer
November
options.
Airport information Delta 195 Zulu weather wind 305 at 9 visibility 10 sky clear temperature 27 dew point 16 altimeter 2995 advise on initial contact you have information Delta Kilo Sierra Bravo November Airport information Delta.
Now there is one thing I'd like to talk about before we get into the various multiplayer options. If you're planning on doing any multiplayer stuff with FSX, whether it's JoinFS or FSX Steam multiplayer, go ahead and budget a lot of time to get the technology to work, because while it can be done, it's not easy, and that's because of the old code. It's a big pain in the butt. Every time I do some sort of multiplayer with anyone, it takes me about 30 minutes to get the tech to work properly. And that's just how it is. Also, if you open the ports in your router, you can become a host, and it makes multiplayer, you have a lot more flexibility. If you don't have your ports open in your router, then you're essentially a slave to anybody else that's out there. So if you haven't opened up the ports in your router, go ahead and take care of that. It'll make things a lot easier for you. Alright, so here I did not taxi all the way down to the foot of the runway to do a takeoff. I figured I can take off in the middle, and it works out pretty good because this is a very long runway, and this plane doesn't need a lot of runway to take off. So let's go ahead and rev this thing up, and afterwards we'll start talking about FSX Steam multiplayer. I wanted to take a moment to go over various multiplayer options that you can use on your flight simulator. Now, as we all know, flight simulation is a lot of fun. You can go out and fly various missions and whatnot. And as a single player, when you're flying by yourself, it's a really fun activity. However, it's 10 times more fun if you can fly with other people. And what I wanted to do is show you the various options for multiplayer, and there's a ton of them. Alright, the first option is what we're looking at right here. The first option for multiplayer is what we're looking at right here, which is FSX Steam. What you want to do is just go to the multiplayer option, go ahead and sign in. And with this is the bare basics. If you're a player using FSX Steam, you can just go ahead, sign into multiplayer, and it's taking a while. Let's go ahead and wait for this to go in. And as you can see, there's a whole bunch of rooms that you can join. Now, if you're a single player and you want to, play multiplayer, what you're gonna have to do is, if you don't know anyone, you gotta have to find a room to go in, and the rooms that are available are the ones without the little padlock. Okay. And it's just a matter of finding the right server, and you're just gonna have to go with whatever is presented. Now in this case, you're the player joining a session. If you want to be a host, okay, here you can just connect directly. If you wanted to be a host, you need to forward your ports in your router. I have a video in the description link below. Go ahead and check it out, and that shows you how to do port forwarding for FSX Steam. And once you do that, you can become a host, and when you're a host, up to 8 people can join your session. Now the problem, and it's not really a problem per se, but the limitation with the multiplayer feature is once you're in a session with someone else, everything else disappears. There's no AI traffic, there's no AI ATC, it's just you and the people that you're flying with, and that's it. Your simulator will show what scenery you have and what your weather is and whatnot, and everyone else will see what's on their computer. You can see each other, okay, but it's somewhat limited in the sense that all you can do is just fly with whoever you're with. There's no AI traffic, there's no AI ATC, so it's a little bit limited. Also, FSX multiplayer uses how should I put this? Host and client, where the host, who has their ports opened, hosts a session and several people can join, and that's it. So this is one of your options. You can be a host or you can be a player. Now, there's a lot of limitations to this. So if you want more options, there are other things you can... Alright, so that's a summary of the FSX Steam multiplayer. What I don't like about it is once you guys get into a session, it's just you and whoever you're playing with in the world. And with one host and 7 people joining, that's what, 7 people. And there's no AI ATC, there's no AI, there's no road traffic, there's nothing. And it's kind of boring. So that's the lowest common denominator, a good way to get started. Another option for multiplayer is the online ATC networks. Those offer a lot more realism with regards to playing with other folks. Unfortunately, you have to follow a lot of rules with the online network. So let's go ahead and take a look at what the online ATC networks have to offer. There are other things you can do. First and foremost is VATSIM. Now, VATSIM is more of a network. It's an air traffic control simulator, but the controllers really can't do anything unless they have planes to control. So you can join VATSIM, and here you can fly in a real world or a real online world where there's other traffic, and the other traffic are other people flying, and there's ATC to control it. Now this runs special code. You need to download a VATSIM client. vPilot is the most common one. There's also one called Squawkbox, but I don't think that's in development anymore. And with vPilot, you can go ahead, get on the network and fly. The issue, I wouldn't call this an issue per se, but the limitations are you can't just go on there and start flying. You have to do a lot of reading to learn how to operate in this environment. It's free, but the cost is the time and effort it takes to become a proficient pilot speaking with ATC. If you just go on there and don't know what you're doing, you're gonna piss people off, and one thing leads to another. Next thing you know, you get banned. Otherwise, it's a good network to go and do some multiplayer flying. A next network is IVAO, which is similar to VATSIM. I think this one is based in Europe. It's pretty much the same as VATSIM. Both are free, and same rules apply. Another option is Pilot Edge. Now, Pilot Edge is the same principle. It's an online flying network. Only difference is you have to pay to use this network. and the controllers on this network are professionals, and you know, it they're really serious about it. So you got to know what you're doing. Also on Pilot Edge, um, with the other networks, controllers may or may not be on where you're flying. You know, it's play it by ear. It depends on who's on. With Pilot Edge, the controllers, there's certain airports, and right now they're in the western United States, and they have hours where they're on duty from, let's say, 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. and they're always there at certain airports. And as time goes on, their coverage of ATC is growing, and controllers are always there whenever you want to fly in those particular airports. You just have to pay and know what you're doing. So Pilot Edge is another good option. This one is really good if you're going for your PPL and you want to practice, talking with ATC. This is a good option because here the controllers are professionals. On IVAO and on VATSIM, the controllers are, folks who like ATC and just want to do it as a hobby, and they may not do a good job as real pros. Now there are real pros on VATSIM and IVAO also, but it's a gamble as to when if they're going to be on duty at a certain airport. Take 8. I tell you, man, this voiceover bullshit is for the birds. All right. The online ATC networks. I don't like them. It's always stepping on somebody's toes, fighting and all that bullshit. The good thing about the online networks is if you have a bunch of people and you want to fly, just go ahead and choose an airport where no one's doing any coverage and park your planes out there and fly around. Just understand that if a controller logs on within the context of being a VATSIM or ATC controller for whatever network you're on, you're going to have to start following the rules. That aside, it's a very good option for multiplayer. Don't need to forward any ports. Just download the client, make sure you're signed up with that network, and sign on. Simple as that. Alright, next up we have FSXmultiplayer.com, which is a website, and I'm pretty sure there are many other websites like this. Just go ahead and Google FSX Fly Online and all sorts of information is going to pop up. And with these websites, they serve as a marketplace where they connect people who want to fly together. And you can, if you have your own server with your ports open, you can go ahead and host it on there. Other people can find you. You can find other people. It's another resource that's available to you to help find other folks to fly with. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look and see what online resources are available for FSX multiplayer sessions. Alright, so you have VATSIM, IVAO, Pilot Edge. Another option is Multiplayer Live. With this web page essentially connects people who want to fly together. You can come on here and you can host your own server. You can put a call out, say, hey, I'm going to be doing an air show at so and so date, and coordinate and organize with other people to do online flying. So here's another good place to find people to fly with. Now with this one, all it is it's a network to connect people, put people in connection with each other. The actual flying, they use the same technology that I mentioned for Steam, where you have a host, and then you have the various people connecting. Now, all right. As we can see, we got the city of Chicago out on the horizon. Next up is the holy grail for FSX multiplayer. It's called Join FS, one word. It implements peer-to-peer multiplayer networking on FSX using the backdoor. In other words, whoever developed this was absolutely brilliant. They used the technology that places AI aircraft in your simulator, and they configured that so that you can do multiplayer. And the best thing about it is it supports cross platforms: FSX Boxed, FSX Steam, P3D, and pretty soon X-Plane can all fly together in the same session. So let's talk about Join FS. Pilot Edge, IVAO, VATSIM. These organizations use custom code on servers that connects people. Okay? Join FS is the latest and greatest thing with FSX multiplayer, and this thing has a very, very bright future, and I'll tell you why. With the other multiplayer options, on Steam, only Steam simulators can multiplayer with Steam simulators. If you want to host a multiplayer session, all the other people must be running the same version of Flight Simulator that you're running. So if you're running Boxed and you host a Boxed session on your local area network, only people with other identical versions of that box, and as you may recall, there's several versions of Box. You have Acceleration, SB1, SB2, don't recall what the other ones are. But the point is they have to be identical if they want to play with each other. JoinFS implements multiplayer using an entirely different approach. What it does is it implements a low latency peer-to-peer technology. What this means is once you download the JoinFS client, and it's a very, very tiny program, okay? You download that program onto your computer, and let's say you do port forwarding and your ports are open. Someone else who has JoinFS on their machine, all they need to do if you want to multiplayer with them, once you fire up the JoinFS client and you start a session, all they need to do is punch in your IP address. Just punch in your IP address, and bam, they're in your session. Now, big difference is with JoinFS, your AI ATC and your AI traffic still exists on your program, on your computer. The person that joins, his AI ATC and his traffic still exist on his computer. And both of you can make it so that each other can see each other's traffic. See what I'm saying? So that's one good thing. Now, because it's a peer-to-peer with dynamic rerouting, what that means is once you host a session, someone joins your session. If that other person is also a host with his ports forward, someone else can join his session, and that person can make it so that everyone else on that network can see his traffic. And if that person is a host, other people can join his session. And it goes on and on and on and on. And the point is, all these players can play together, and they can all have their own AI ATC and their own AI traffic. But the best part is, the way JoinFS works, an FSX Steam computer can do a multiplayer with someone with Prepared, or someone with X-Plane, or with someone with FSX Boxed. Different simulators can play together in the same gaming session. I don't know the limit of JoinFS because it's peer-to-peer. In theory, as long as various people are hosting, people can just join and you can just have this big multiplayer session with all these people together, and with AI traffic, AI ATC and whatnot. I believe right now it only supports Steam, FSX Box, and Prepared, but I want to say they're also working on an X-Plane client, and this way people can get together and fly. Alright, doing our final approach here, and this is the ATIS from hell. Every single runway at Chicago O'Hare was in use, so it took like forever for this thing to read back. Anyway, got some good scenery here. Alright, next up is the online flying clubs. I'm pretty sure there are dozens of online flying clubs, folks from all over the world. Once you sign up with one of those clubs, they have, scheduled events and whatnot, and they have their events using either the JoinFS multiplayer technology or the FSX Steam. Either way, you find other folks that you can fly with. So in this case, we're going to take a preview of the Eastern Hops online flying group. Another option, let's come over here and let's go ahead and type Eastern Hops. Eastern Hops is an online flying club. And once you join Eastern Hops, they have events such as, I don't know, Foggy Fridays or Cessna Sundays. And they have all these events where all the players get together and they fly online together. And they probably use this peer-to-peer technology for their online sessions. Or they also use FSX multiplayer. In fact, Eastern Hops Community. This one currently has 20 players and it can host up to 99. So that just goes to show that, you know, if you're serious about multiplayer and you want to play with other people, there are a whole bunch of options. You just have to sit down and figure stuff out. You can also join the FSX group or any of the flight simulation groups on Facebook, and you know, you can put a call out, hey, you know, I want to do some multiplayer, or I want to play on VATSIM, anybody want to join me? And then you can go off and, you know, connect on VATSIM and whatever. Point is, there are plenty of multiplayer options. Just remember, if you want to be a host, okay, and you have more flexibility and more control if you're a host. If you want to be a host, you have to open up the ports in your router. Go ahead and check out the video in the notes below, and I will show you how to do that. And that's it. Hope you found this information useful. I'm going to go ahead and head back to my Beech Duke, where I'm flying into Chicago. And that's it. We've gone over all the options for FSX multiplayer. The rest of this video is just the landing at Chicago O'Hare and the taxi to the ramp. I want to say the scenery being used here is Chicago O'Hare by FS Dream Team, same folks that did GSX. Let's go ahead and double check that. And yes, GSX Ground Services. And I got it at a special deal. It was on sale. Got the FSX and the FS9 version together. Pretty good scenery. And this particular flight, it really wasn't difficult. I think I did all of this just by using pilotage or something like that. Just had a thought for a future episode idea. Most of my flights that I do in the Beech Duke are, I wouldn't even call them short hops. You take off, you fly around, and you land. Truth of the fact is, if you're going to spend this kind of money to have a twin-engine piston, you want to use them for, you know, go somewhere. So, for example, fly from Ohio to Florida. Long haul, as it were. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and take this bad boy and do a long haul flight to get it up to 25 to 30,000 feet. It has a turbocharged engine. It can get that high. And with the real world weather turned on, I'm curious to see what all I'd experience going from, say, Columbus to Washington, D.C. or from Columbus to Atlanta or something. So one of these days I'm going to just do a nice long haul and obviously edit out most of it and see what I learn. Alright, with that, let's go ahead and check out the landing.
Caution, taxiway. Caution, taxiway. Approaching 14 left.
Relatively uneventful landing. Taxied around quite a bit before I actually found a place to park. You know, just to go ahead and get an idea as to what the airport looks like. And this is what it looks like. Hits your frames a little bit, especially with that weird texture for the runway or for the taxiways. That aside, it's a good scenery package. I'm not sure if the Beech Duke is still for sale. I know that the developers, they went out of business. Someone died in the family and they had to close up shop. If it is still available, go ahead and get it. It's the best GA aircraft you can get for FSX, hands down. Definitely very, very good. It's called Real Air Simulations Beech Duke. And I think that's it. Now, normally the general aviation aircraft doesn't park at the gates like I'm doing now, but you know, I wanted to check it out so that everybody could see what the Chicago air scenery has to offer. And that's it. Hope you found the information useful. Go ahead and download the JoinFS client. It's tiny, it's very easy to use, it's good to figure out. Go ahead and download it and start playing with it. It's definitely worth your time. Also, if you're serious about multiplayer, go ahead and figure out how to do your port forwarding in your router. I have another video that shows you how to do that. The link is in the description below. Definitely get into the multiplayer. Shared cockpit, flying together, it's a lot of fun. Alright, let's go ahead and power this thing down and wrap this thing up. My name is Flightsimguy. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.